For over a century, cars have made our world go round. We've built billions of them. Thanks to evolving technology, they're made quicker and more intricately than ever before.
We have more than 1 trillion different possible combinations.
Any variation of colour, of material that you can think of, we can actually replicate in these rooms.
Nowhere are the stakes higher than in the world of luxury and bespoke cars.
We could potentially have a scrap car. It is that critical.
In this series, we'll see 5 iconic cars built from scratch. From bare metal to finished product. Using high-tech robots and clever techniques that are hundreds of years old.
We have a customer who has a piece of moon rock. We will be painting his Valkyrie in moon rock dust paint. It doesn't get more extreme than that.
Tonight, the 207 miles per hour Bentley Continental GT. Aimed at high-class clientele who are hard to please.
To have the whole of the interior pink, the stitching pink, diamonds encrusted onto a dash. Not my personal choice, but it looked fantastic.
We'll witness one car built from the ground up by 970 people plus a handful of robots, using over 5 miles of wiring, 4,000 individual components, and a 12-cylinder engine.
It's fantastic, that smooth, creamy feeling that only a multiple-cylinder engine can bring to you.
Time's tight, and the stakes and costs are high.
If we get it a millimetre out, it won't look right when it's in the car.
This is how to build a Bentley. Now in its 100th year, Bentley is one of the most famous names in British motoring. Founder W.O. Bentley began making cars with an emphasis on speed.
60 high-powered cars get away at Le Mans, beginning the 24-hour road race.
In 1929, his famous supercharged blower Bentley won Le Mans. And in 1930, he unveiled his 8-litre, a car that could reach 100 miles per hour. Through the 20th century, Bentley changed hands 3 times, but the brand never strayed from making expensive cars, offering luxury and power. In 1998, when Volkswagen acquired the brand, it received a huge cash injection and produced its first all-new model in years. With VW's backing, Bentley went from creating 1,000 cars in '98 to over 11,000 cars a year today. Bentley's newest model, the 3rd-generation Continental GT, is made here at the company's HQ in Crewe, Cheshire. Around 5,000 people are employed, dedicated to turning out around 80 new cars every day. On average, you'll find over 1 million car parts on site, 11,000 tyres, and about £3 million worth of wood and fine bull hide. The basis for our car is the 500-kilogram chassis, fresh from a sister factory in Germany. It's the bare bones, made from lightweight aluminium.
So my name's Stephen Davis. I'm one of the manufacturing project leaders within Bentley, and my job is to deliver new cars into the production for the whole of the Crewe plant.
Around the factory, teams of people are waiting to get to work to build the car in under 16 hours. If they fail, millionaire customers will be left waiting, and that's not an option.
The way I look at it is everybody else in the business is doing things to feed these colleagues who work on the assembly line to make sure they have all the right parts at the right time that allows them to do their job simply.
The customer of the car we're following has asked for the biggest and most powerful W12 engine, a sequin blue paint job, magnolia leather with diamond stitching, and a koa wood dashboard. As our customer is from China, it'll need the steering wheel on the left-hand side. Total cost, £170,000. To make it in 16 hours, it's vital that the 65 build stages complete their particular jobs within an identical time frame, known as the takt time.
So the takt time is the time for the front wheel to go from this green line to the front wheel of the next car to get to this green line. And that's 9.15 minutes that we're currently working to on the GT assembly line.
Every task on the moving assembly line has been carefully designed to take just over 9 minutes. But before the 16-hour assembly line countdown starts, our car needs painting.
It will take around 1 day to pass through the main paint job process. We put around 40 to 50 hours into each car.
Our car arrived at the factory as a bare aluminium body shell. In the paint shop, it receives underbody sealant, 2 coats of primer, 1 base coat, and 1 clear coat.
So the bottom coating of the car is about protection and corrosion resistance, and the top coat also gives UV resistance. The middle part is the colour.
Behind me here we do 63 different colours. For the customers who want the bespoke element, we do offer our Mulliner range. And these are actually hand-painted cars because they are such unique one-off colours that we do each time. But we have had instances where we've had customers walk in with lipsticks, with bridge magnets, with brooches, and said, please, could you match that colour? And of course, we'll do everything we can to match that colour.
The owner of our car has chosen sequin blue from the range of 63 colours. They didn't bring in a fridge magnet. But in the past, clients have made all sorts of paint job demands.
One of my designers went down to a customer in London. She showed us his nail varnish. She said, I want my exterior to be exactly this colour. So the designer obviously said, well, could I take the nail varnish away and, you know, take it back to the factory and get it colour matched? And she said, well, no, not really. It's my favourite nail varnish. So she painted his fingernails. And he had to come back with his fingernails and get them scanned to get the paint colour right.
After paint, some cars will need refinishing, removing the smallest blemishes. But it's a pass from Alan for our blue car. So it's onto the assembly line where it'll spend around 16 hours going from a shell to a car.
One of the very first things we do is we actually remove the doors from the car. What's unique for us and what's something that a lot of other people don't do is we also take the front wings or the front fenders off the car as well.
These covers protect the perfect paint. They're used on any panel in danger of getting scratched. The guys on the line now have better access to the interior and the wheel arch for wiring.
So the next significant thing that we do on the assembly line is the wire harness fit. So I'll show you 2 different views of the main wire harness that goes into the car. We have to work really hard with our supplier to make sure actually that isn't just a harness that's dropped into a bag. Every little detail of which piece of harness comes out when we unfold this in the bag is critical to us. Because if you get the wrong piece of harness in the wrong area in the car, or if you get it slightly twisted, you've got the risk that when you finally come to fit the engine, actually the harness is in the wrong orientation and you've got to undo it all again to get it back to the right place.
This harness is fitted by just 4 people in 9 minutes. It connects hundreds of electrical components with the car's computers that deliver signals for the engine to fire, the speedometer to display how fast the wheels are turning, and even the electric windows to roll up or down.
So what you saw in the box around there all folded up actually is this. This is the main wire harness for a Continental GT. So it weighs about 45 kilograms. In addition to the main harness, we have harnesses obviously in the doors, above the headliner, in the bumpers.
Just round the corner from the main assembly line is the engine shop.
This is very nice. Here you can see a block arriving. You can see it delivered by an automated trolley, ready for the guys to start assembling it by hand.
The engine shop manufactures two different engines for the GT. The 4-litre V8 that produces 500 horsepower, or, like the owner of our car, you can go for the full-fat 6-litre W12 that produces over 600 horsepower.
I'm Paul Williams, I'm Director of Powertrain Engineering, and of course the pinnacle powertrain in our lineup is the W12 engine. It's a very unique thing to Bentley. The W12 is just absolutely the king when it comes to that effortless torque.
Inside these cylinders, petrol, air and sparks collide, creating an explosion that pushes pistons up and down, driving a shaft connected to the wheels. A V8 engine has two banks of 4 cylinders shaped like a V. A W12 crams in 4 banks of 3 cylinders in a sort of W shape.
So what you see here is basically 2 Vs. Now the real benefit of the W12 is that you have this very close configuration of cylinders, and that enables you to create a very short packaging space. So the whole overall length of the engine, if you compare this engine to a V8, for example, this engine is actually slightly shorter.
Our car's engine will be assembled by the engine technicians. It arrives as 294 separate components. The first part of the jigsaw, connecting each cylinder to a piston via a connecting rod, known as the conrod.
Each individual piston conrod assembly that is designed for each cylinder is fitted down carefully. You can see the protection there to stop there being any scratches on the surfaces as it goes in, to make sure that when the engine is initially assembled state, fits together absolutely perfectly.
Despite being as compact as can be, the engine is still the heaviest part of the car. It takes clever packaging to make everything fit and to evenly distribute the weight between the front and rear.
So what you want is you want the mass as far back and down as possible, because of course the engine is a large percentage of the weight of the car.
Next, the cylinder head is fitted, sealing in the pistons, followed by the fuel rails, high-pressure metal tubes that deliver the petrol into the cylinders.
The fuel is fed into these high-pressure pumps and then into the 2 high-pressure fuel rails.
But this clever engine won't even start without its electronic systems. An ECU, the car's computerized brain, will need to wire into the engine.
So you can see here, this is the main harness of the engine. So you can see by the amount of sensors and the amount of different wires in the engine how many different points there are where the engine is both monitored and also activated.
The final stage of the powertrain assembly sees the gearbox, suspension and brakes all attached to the engine. Our Bentley now has the key mechanicals it needs to move. There are now just 12 hours to go until this Bentley needs to be ready to drive. But it still needs an interior crafting from wood veneer.
It's taking those leaves of veneer, taking those packs of veneer, and actually picking the best from the very best.
Fine, male-only leather hides.
They don't suffer with the same amount of stretch marks as what a female bull will, obviously giving birth, and they're bigger.
And a lot of building, with 0 room for error and a strict time frame. We're following the build of a single Bentley Continental GT from start to finish. Our car now has an engine, paint and lots of wiring, but not much else. Still, Bentley should know what it's doing. It's been making cars here in Crewe for over 70 years. Crewe has been home to the brand since 1946. The 80-year-old factory site was originally picked as a place to build Merlin engines for Spitfires during the Second World War. Around 5,000 people are employed here, dedicated to turning out, on average, 80 new cars every day. Half of those are Continentals, for customers paying anywhere from £148,000 to well over £200,000, depending, of course, on optional extras.
We have such a huge array of colours, leathers, carpets, paint colours. The choice is almost endless.
to its success in the high-end luxury market is customization. Our car will have 2 optional extras. The customer has paid £8,000 for diamond stitching and £1,000 for Koa wood. But there are many, many more possibilities.
I think the pink cars always look really different. Now, to have a car fully pink, the whole of the interior pink, the stitching pink, not my personal choice, but it looked fantastic.
You can go so far as to really bring your own elements in. So, for instance, if you own an estate and you have a particular species of wood you're very keen on, let's say one of your trees has fallen naturally, we could take that tree, we could obviously develop it into part of the interior of your car.
To Bentley's high-class customers, the car's famous wooden dashboard is a real selling point. That's where the wood shop comes in.
The veneer stores have had to be expanded with the launch of Continental GT. In terms of value, it's around about £500,000 worth of veneer at any one time, but there's £2 million worth of veneer already pre-selected off-site. We've got the addition of Koa, which has been brought in for the launch. It's a beautiful veneer from Hawaii. It's a straight grain veneer, but it's got a beautiful hue when it's under the lacquer. We believe it's been used to model surfboards previously. If we're looking for a classic for Bentley, it's got to be the walnut. The walnut burr has been part of Bentley since the dawn of Bentley. And if we look at the leaves of veneer that we've got here, you can see here we've marked out the very extensive burr content, which is really tight-knit. There's lots of configuration and there's really lots of interest. And that's what we look for. The areas to the right of that, which are much more straight-grained, much more open-grained, and you've got some real natural defects down this area, we wouldn't use. It's just not good enough to use on a walnut car set. So that, for me, is really the epitome of what Bentley is about. It's taking those leaves of veneer, taking those packs of veneer, and actually picking the best from the very best.
The wood veneers are used not only to make the dashboard fascias, they also run through the length of both doors and the center console.
The philosophy we employ is to make sure any shape we create looks natural at first glance. So here's our dashboard in liquid amber, and you can see how the grain runs into the door panel.
So if we take the old GT, for instance, the fascias were very much separate and stood alone. But now we've got the added complexity around matching those veneers. You can just see there by the size of the template, we've got to work with quite an amount of veneer, and we want that to flow around and encase the driver or the passenger, so they've got the veneer running all the way around the cockpit.
And there's another engineering complexity in our car's new wooden dashboard.
This kind of clean-looking dashboard, we want lots of tech. One of the ideas I had really at the time was, why don't we actually try and hide the screen? So you open a door to the Bentley, you get inside, and what you see is a beautiful wooden dashboard. And when you turn on ignition, how about if a screen appeared? And what I developed was an idea where the screen would rotate. But the eureka moment was to say, you know what, this is a GT, this is a Grand Tourer. Wouldn't it be cool if it turned a third time and the dials, the traditional driving instruments, came to life?
The owner of our car has chosen Koa, the Hawaiian surfboard wood, for their interior.
So we've got some veneer that's now been aligned to the console, we've got veneers that are aligned to the rotating screen, and then we've got the veneer that's ready for the fascias. So now this is the clever bit. And what Dominic's doing now is realigning those veneers so we get a mirror match and a match that runs around the car. So across the car, you'll get a nice flow of veneer that encases the passenger and driver.
A process called hot glue stitching is used to join the pieces for the dashboard, door trims, and console.
Within the console itself, it has a lid, and it's important that that lid actually matches when it's cut out. You can see there the template for the console, how it's going to run. It's got its air vents at the top. This is the lid section, and it's this lid section now that's got to make sure that matches the outer part of the console when it's cut.
Next, it's precisely marked out for laser cutting.
You can see here the relief points that are put in on the laser, and that means that when that veneer is formed into those areas, it will naturally split and crack along those form lines, making sure we get this beautiful coined edge in the car. And that's the level of detail we have to achieve to make sure that when it's finally finished machined, it'll look seamless.
After pressing the veneer onto an aluminium substrate, under 3,000 pounds of pressure, the pieces are sanded and have 5 layers of lacquer applied. But it's not finished yet.
You'll see there's like an orange peel effect on the surface. The craftsmanship comes into it when we try and remove that orange peel surface finish without actually rubbing through the lacquer, and that takes a great degree of skill.
To finish the pieces, they need flatting, partly by hand and partly by robot, to remove just enough of the finish to make it perfectly smooth. And with a final polish, almost 3 meters of handcrafted wood veneer panels are ready to head to the assembly line to be fitted to our car. There are just 8.5 hours until the car is scheduled to drive out the door. The wood has now joined the rest of the dashboard, also known as the instrument panel, or IP.
So what Jane's doing now, she's just connecting the harness that's in the instrument panel up to the test station, and then you'll see the IP come alive.
The IP is more than just wood and a speedo. It's packed full of computers and electronic functions, from the clocks in the rotating MMI display to the motors in the adjustable steering column. The IP is no good if there's just a single electrical fail.
It takes a lot of time, but it's critical we do it to make sure that the unit that goes into the car is good. All ready to go, it's passed the test, so we'll go over now to the assembly line and watch the instrument panel being fitted.
Lining up the interior is no easy task.
So we have to make sure that as the instrument panel comes through the door, we don't catch any of the doors, so the assister has a little bit on the end, so we can hook onto the door and make sure we slide through cleanly. You can see the two obvious people on either side of the assister, but there's also the third person who'll be in the engine bay, making sure they do all the connections into the engine bay area. If we get the instrument panel in the wrong place, then the rest of the interior trim goes in the wrong place as well, because the center console takes its alignment from it, and the doors take their alignment from it as well on the interior of the car.
This car now has its dashboard, but the matching center console and the door trims will have to wait for later to be installed. The next stop for our car is just off the assembly line. Here the part-built body shell will be joined to its powertrain on what's called a marriage table.
Before we do the engine marriage and put the whole powertrain up into the car, we have to do some further assembly of it. So over on the right, you can see an almost complete powertrain unit waiting to go up into the car.
The marriage is where the top half of our car, the chassis that we've seen painted and built up, and the bottom half of the car, known as the powertrain, come together forever. The powertrain is the mechanical workings, the engine, gearbox, exhaust, suspension and brakes.
So the engine will come round from the engine shop. It's probably one of the biggest and hardest lumps that we have to move around the site, because it's quite a wide load as well. So you've already seen how busy the logistics gangways are. We need to move this one from engine shop to here. The engine gets loaded onto the front subframe, rear subframe gets loaded into the car, and then we need to do the connections between the two.
It's a complex set of components, and it needs lining up perfectly with the car chassis.
We've got the rear axle, we've then got the front axle assembly with the engine on it, and then between the two we've got the prop shaft, the rest of the exhaust system, the big centre section, and then the heat shields are the critical to make sure that that heat doesn't pass up into the body of the car.
Once the powertrain is fully built, the marriage table is moved onto the assembly line where our car body is waiting to join it. One wrong move and that expensive paintwork will need to be redone.
So we've now got the engine marriage table that we saw in the sub-assembly area. It's now in position under the line, and now it's just waiting for the body to catch up with it, and then the two will match pace and travel along together. It's a big engine that we're trying to get into what's actually quite a small engine bay, or at least it always looks small when there's an engine in it. Here you start to see all of those different elements, all those different factions coming together to be a car at last.
Our Bentley might now resemble a car, but it's still only around halfway along the assembly line. And there's less than 7 hours left to make the seats. From 150 pieces of leather, install an interior, make all the connections, rehang panels, quality control, and that's assuming everything goes to plan. We're inside Bentley, seeing a single Continental GT become a finished 200-mile-per-hour car out of thousands of individual parts. We've seen the 12-cylinder engine assembled, 3 meters of wood fashioned into a dashboard, and 5 miles of wiring laid out for the electrics. Now our car is around halfway along the 65-station assembly line. It's still missing seats, wings, doors, and lots of finishing touches. The 970 members of staff on the line have under 7 hours to get it finished. At Bentley HQ, staff still match wood grain by eye, assemble engine components by hand, and select the best leather by touch. But the demand for 11,000 cars a year means a high-tech system is needed to ensure our car is finished perfectly. It's called DC tooling, and it monitors the workers like a hawk.
So a DC tool, it basically gives us a record, and we know how many revolutions, how many turns it's done, so that'll confirm it on the screen to make sure that it's done its job.
Every task they do is outlined by the supercomputer.
So that system is very carefully controlled, traced, and managed so that there can't be any mistakes.
Even the trim shop, where our car's interior will be made from fine bull hide and sewn by hand, has its own ultra-modern systems.
The machine is now finding out that most efficient, quickest, best use of the leather percentage-wise. And what it's doing is cutting them all out. So some of these parts could be seat parts, some of these parts could be door pads. What the guys have got to do, they'll pick off each of the colour-coded parts and put them into the relevant box.
The leather store houses up to 5,000 hides at any one time.
Every hide horse is a car. What one of the colleagues is doing now is looking for the natural features, so any of the grain marks, loose grain, defects like that one there, which are not acceptable, grain marks.
If any part of the leather isn't perfect, it can't be used on the car.
This isn't good enough to go in a Bentley, but it's good enough to go into a wallet or a key fob, but not on a seat, not on a door pad.
Gary's team is quite particular about the leather they use. These hides are sourced for their consistent quality, and they only use bull hides.
Purely because they don't suffer with the same amount of stretch marks as what a female bull will, obviously giving birth, and they're bigger. So you get a lot more square meterage.
The next job in the build is to make the seats and door pads from around 150 pieces of leather. The customer has specified the colour magnolia with a diamond stitch.
So here we have the sewing area. There's over 170 machines here, individual machines, and over 130 people. So just sewing the panels together. It's a moving line, 9-minute stations all the way along, 14 stations in total.
Each seat is made of 40 different cuts of leather.
If you look at this one now, you're starting to see the shape of the cover. If you look at that particular area alone, really difficult to sew. You've got all that material. So you've got that, which then keeps the welt nice and straight. You've then got all the notches that she's got to try and line up. You've then got the soft touch foam here. You've got soft touch foam on the side. And then to try and get that on a curve is really difficult.
This red seat belongs to a different car. Our seats have undergone 2.5 hours of sewing. Now every stitch needs meticulous inspection.
So Angela will be looking at all the diamond stitching is in the correct orientation. All the twin stitch all the way along is nice and equal. And when it goes around a curve, then it's got that curve rather than a 50p effect, which that one, as you can see, it's a beautiful curve.
Next, the seats are built up, ready for the leather to be stretched on top.
Which part of the process you on now, Carl? Airbag. Airbag.
Yeah. And old-fashioned sewing techniques give way again to state-of-the-art systems.
If it doesn't turn green on there, Carl won't be able to get that seat out of there. It won't unlock. Then we know we've got an assurance that it's done properly as it goes through the build story. So you've got a fan there, and then you've got a massage pump, so the other side of here will be bags that will inflate. So that's what gives you your massage, your lumbar. So a lot of pipes, but ultimately 3 connections.
Carl's last job is to stretch the leather tightly over the seat.
But this is all about now the caressing. This is about making the leather work for you, making it fit where it doesn't really want to go. So the guys will rotate on these jobs every other day. Because if you did 2 days on these, you'll feel it in your fingers because the amount of stretching.
The seats now go on to a moving line, with one being finished every 4.5 minutes.
So the delivery man will come and pick that up in the next cycle, and it'll be another dream come true.
There are under 2 hours left until our Bentley will be complete. The penultimate stage is called the build-up, where the car will have everything fitted before it heads to quality control. First, the car has its wings or fenders refitted, complete with snazzy new LED headlight units. With millions of possible combinations, it's crucial to Bentley that the customer of our car receives exactly what they've specified.
We have different combinations of chrome and dark grills, different combinations obviously in the colours of the body, so right colour bumper with the wrong colour grill is no good to me.
So every part has its unique barcode scanned. That way, the factory supercomputer will detect if the wrong style wheels or the wrong colour grill is being fitted, and the car won't work.
So if the car sees a component it's not expecting, it won't start and it will stop dead.
The wheels are fitted and the car is dropped onto a conveyor where its windscreen glass is installed. Followed by the rear seats. Finally, the front seats arrive at the car and are installed using a hydraulic arm called a lift assister. Cables are plugged in, giving the seats power and connecting them to the car's electronic brain. And the seat runners are bolted to the floor to precise torque settings. Priced at £170,000, the customer who ordered our car chose from 145 million different combinations of exterior and interior trim. But if a customer wants their Bentley even more personalised, it gets sent to the Mulliner workshop that claims it'll hand paint virtually any colour and entertain virtually any customer idea.
We have a huge back catalogue dating back to the 70s, even the 60s. We also have the opportunity for us to match items that are sent to us. So we've had a food blender, a Hawaiian shirt, which was tricky because Hawaiian shirts have a lot of different colours on them.
We've certainly done things where we've created sculptures for people, put inside the dashboards. We've created colours unique from nail varnish pot or a sequin from a dress. And we've even created one-off cars, such as the car we created for Her Majesty the Queen. The State Limousine is effectively a one-off custom coach-built vehicle we created for her. When I meet a customer, I tend to be trying to find out about them and what they like, maybe what hotels they like, or what clothes they wear, or what their house is like. But then you can say, well, would you like a chrome grille, or would you like a white grille? Would you like a black grille? Would you like something, to kind of go with that? What colour brake calipers would you like?
Every colour ever used, dating back nearly 50 years, is kept on swatches in this library.
So this is only in the 80s. This is called Ming Blue.
Just in case a customer wants to use an old paint job again.
And then this is one that was quite expensive in its creation. It's supposed to simulate liquid metal. So the base coat for this is really expensive, has a specific kind of application process. We only actually put 7 microns of base coat on that one.
7 microns is about 1/10 the thickness of a human hair.
So the preparation process has to be really, really fine sandpaper. So normal sandpaper would leave a series of scratches that you would see because the base coat particles are so small they would fall into them and reflect the light differently.
Incredibly, customers can even add artwork to their interiors, with precious materials tucked beneath the dashboard veneers.
You look at the detail that's in here, you can see the mountains, the sailing boats. It's just remarkable about what can be achieved.
Giving the customer exactly what they want is top priority. Next, our car will face the toughest stage of all, quality control.
So this is trying to get us down to that frustrating last half a millimetre that is really, really important to us.
As the team try to complete the build on time. We're at Bentley's headquarters in Cheshire, where £50 million worth of vehicles are produced every week for customers all over the world. The car we're following is being made for a customer in China. It's the brand's most popular model, the Continental GT. Considered by Bentley to be the all-rounder of its ultra-high-end range.
If a customer is in front of his or her garage, they see a super sports car, they see a luxury limousine, they see a car for every day, because our customers on average have 8 cars. But if they want to have it all in one, they jump into their Continental GT.
The vast number of choices Bentley offers means building our car relies on a clever computer-controlled supply chain, ensuring the many options are correct.
On the inside of this car, we have about 7 billion configurations available for customers to choose from.
Customers specify and commission their vehicles very, very individually.
Because each one of those customers, for them, it's a unique car. It is their pride and joy.
The moment you see the first one coming out of the factory and you start to see it in different colours and different specs and how the customers start to express themselves, it's always an extreme moment of pride.
Our car, specced in sequin blue with magnolia diamond stitched leather, is near the end of the build process. It's been through 65 different stations on the moving line, all of which have had to complete their jobs within the required 9.15 minutes.
And
Then we're into the final elements of the process. This is where we put the door pad onto the door itself.
The final stations are dedicated to the all-important quality control. Fingers crossed it makes the cut.
One of the key areas for the car for me is where the interior and the exterior come together, and that's typically through the door. So from a manufacturing point of view, the challenge we have is to make sure that the door, when it's shut, gives all the perfect alignment of the door system from the fender into the door through into the front fender. But when you're inside the car, we also get the perfect alignment between the door pad and the instrument panel. So they're now going over it with a fine-tooth comb to identify anything that's away from standard, anything that's away from specification that we've missed through the assembly process, to make sure it gets recorded and that we rework it before it goes further into the test process. So we're in the light move at the moment, helps for particularly the exterior of the car. This is about making sure that all of the gaps and flushness between the panels are within specification. So this is trying to get us down to those frustrating last ½ millimetre that is really, really important to us. That ½ millimetre makes the difference between us and our competitors.
Our car, one of 30 Continentals that'll be built here today, has passed inspection. But once production is on a roll today, Bentley's boffins need to future-proof the brand. One way car companies do that is by creating a concept car, a full-size static model showcasing how they imagine their designs will look in the future.
Ladies and gentlemen, the future of Bentley.
This is the latest Bentley concept, the EXP 100 GT. Made in part to celebrate Bentley's centenary and provide a vision of the future of GT cars.
So the EXP 100 GT is the future vision of luxury grand touring. It really is a manifestation of where Bentley wants to be, pitched at around the year 2035. The concept at the very beginning is on an electric platform, so it's a clear statement about a zero-emissions future.
It has a 2.5-meter long door, an interior made from sustainable cotton and vegan leather, and a big emphasis on air and light.
Every one of those diamonds signifies a different air cell that would adapt to your body depending on your size and weight and create the most comfortable seat possible.
Whilst the EXP doesn't actually drive, the concept is that it'll be fully autonomous, but only when the driver wants it to be.
Whilst you're in the city and you're in traffic, then potentially you would never want to drive the car. But if you imagine pulling onto a coastal road or cruising through the Alps, those kind of experiences are where actually the joy of driving we still want to embrace. This really is a stake in the ground for where we are heading as a company.
Back in the present day, our car is finished on time. 16 hours ago, it was a huge kit of thousands of parts. Now, it's ready to be shipped 5,000 miles to its new home.
This car's headed to China. This particular car is finished in sequin blue. It's a colour that we launched the Continental GT in. It was born out of a customer commission. A lady came to us with a sequin from a dress that she particularly favoured and asked us if we could match that colour.
Our car has been the work of 970 people, and every part of its creation, from designing it to testing it, has all happened here in Cheshire.
Yeah, the Continental GT is really an authentic British car.
Of course, it's a Bentley, so it needs a really, really high level of refinement, both design and production. The whole process takes about 3.5 to 4 years from start to finish, so it's something that you live with every day. It's something that you go home and you dream about, and you're constantly thinking about.
This is the only car in the world which has a W12 engine. It has the largest brake discs in the world. It has super connectivity, so latest electronics in there. On the other hand, if you look at the diamond knurling on every single metal part, if you look at the embroidery, at the cross-stitching, at the fine leather, that level of quality you will also not find in any car of the world.
There's a pride when you deliver something as special as we have.
16 hours, 8 hides of leather, 3 meters of wood veneer, and 4,000 components. Hopefully worth it for the person who's paid £170,000.